Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the Founding Partners Podcast. My name is Richard Matthews. I'm doing a brief co-host with Jonathan Hawkins, the host of the show today. Jonathan, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Glad to have you here today. And like I said, we were just going to hop in and do a brief introduction to what this podcast is all about. So let's start off with just who you are and the clients that you serve.
Sure. Jonathan Hawkins. I'm the founder of law firm GC. We are a law firm. The way I describe it, we are business lawyers for lawyers. We help attorneys and law firm owners identify and understand and navigate sort of the business and ethics related risks that come up in running a law practice.
Yeah. So what kind of, from like a high level, what are some of the things that you guys actually do for attorneys? Why would an attorney turn to you guys?
I get that question a lot. So on a high level, we serve as outside general counsel to law firms, and a law firm is a business and legal issues come up. A lot of people think that lawyers can just represent themselves, and oftentimes they try. I think probably it would be much wiser to have an outside counsel. And some of the things we assist with, we help people starting law firms, starting partnerships. So we draft partnership agreements. We help structure law firms. We help when lawyers are moving between firms, when law firms are breaking apart. We also help with sort of crisis planning, continuity planning for lawyers, particularly solos, and then also what I'll call succession planning, lawyers trying to transition out of the practice or transition down to the next generation.
Oh, so you guys are really just like the lawyer for lawyers. So anything that a legal needs that lawyers have, you help solve those problems.
Pretty much. There's a couple things we do not do. We don't do bar grievance defense work, and we do not do legal malpractice work. We hopefully help them avoid those issues, although can't always avoid it. But
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk a little bit about the Founding Partners Podcast. I know this is a new project for your firm. I want to talk about a couple of things. What is it? And then what's your goal with the podcast? What kind of resource are you trying to build for your community here?
Sure. So it's a podcast that's for law firm owners or aspiring law firm owners. We plan to interview founders of law firms and owners of law firms to explore sort of their entrepreneurial journey, how they got to where they are, how they started their firm, how they have scaled their firm, how they plan to scale their firm further in the future. We're going to ask about their wins, their failures, lessons learned, things that have worked for them, things they've maybe tried and don't work, and then what advice they'd give to others and maybe to their younger selves.
Awesome. So it sounds to me like the point is to be a resource for attorneys to like learn from other successful practices. Is that like sort of on the right track?
That is. Now, on a selfish note, it's really, I want to learn myself. So it's an opportunity for me to learn from a lot of other lawyers who've been there and done that. I want to learn, but then others get to hear the conversations and hopefully learn something as well.
Absolutely. I run a podcast myself called The Hero Show. That's the exact same goal. It's like, we're trying to show other people the story of successful entrepreneurs, but then selfishly myself, I get to talk to a bunch of successful entrepreneurs, which means I get to absorb that knowledge myself. So I see how that ends up being a win-win situation for both yourself and then for the community that you serve in your business. So my last sort of question here for you is, I know this is a simple, short episode, but how often can you expect listeners for you to release new content? Is this going to be like a daily show, weekly show, monthly show? How often do you expect people to be seeing content?
This will be a weekly show. So a new episode every week with a new interview.
And then last, this is the most important question. Where can people find this if they're listening to you? They see this out on social media. Where can they go to find all the different places to subscribe and see all your past episodes and whatnot?
So I would say you can go to your favorite podcast app, find us there. It'll also be on our website with links to everywhere. Our website's www.yourlawfirmgc.com/podcast.
Awesome. So that means the Founding Partner Podcast is going to kick off here in the next episode. And I understand you already have your first couple of interviews lined up. So they'll be coming out shortly, and looking forward to seeing you put this together.
Thank you. And I'm going to enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hopping on today, Jonathan. And if you guys are watching this is make sure you stick around. Episode number 1, the actual real content, the good stuff is going to come out in the next episode. And it's yourlawfirmgc.com/podcast. There should be links to YouTube to iTunes to Google Podcasts, Spotify, any of the places that you might want to subscribe will be there. So you can find that. It's a good place to share the show with your fellow lawyers as well. Again, Jonathan, thank you so much for putting this resource together for your community, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do with it.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and check out the show notes, with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion, by visiting www.yourlawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.